Hi, I'm Katie. Welcome to South School's Images of Greatness celebration. Gathered on our stage today are eminent people who have worked hard to make a difference in our world. This evening you'll be hearing from scientists, artists, authors, athletes, and historical figures.
Our eminent guests have been preparing this evening for quite a long time. They've all prepared a speech and have made a project to include it. We will get to play a guessing game. On your program, there are the names of 4th grade students who participate in the Q program. After each student reads their bio, write the name of the eminent person you think they are pretending to be. You will get the answer later, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Sage Masker.
Imagine being kidnapped, crossing mountains, rivers, and everything in the wild. I have. I was born in 1788. I was 10 when my adventure started. I was with a hunting party one day when I was suddenly kidnapped by another tribe. I tried to escape, but I couldn't. The tribe didn't treat me badly. They grew crops like corn, so my diet improved. A French fur trader married me, but his nose beat up his wives. One day, lots of men, Lewis and Clark, came here. They were looking for a translator. They asked my husband. I wanted to come along. I had just given birth to my son and was not going to leave him behind. We women can be strong. Clark agreed. We were on the boat when it tipped over. All the food, equipment, and journals were falling out. Without thinking, I grabbed as much as I could. When we were passing through different tribe lands, my knowledge of customs led us through. I thought all my family was dead, but when I saw my brother, he was the current leader of the tribe, we cried for joy. I've never seen the ocean before, so when I saw it, it was breathtaking. So I stayed with the party for 2 more years to the far west, returning to Fort Manning. I dealt with a lot of sadness, losing my family and being sold to a white man. I was a great asset to the court of discovery, but I never got paid. I had a statue. Nobody knows when I died. Some think that I died on December 20th, 1812. Then other people say that I ran away from my husband and lived with the Comanche Indians. Then left in the 1870s and lived with the Shoshone tribe. Then died of old age in 1884. Because of the expedition, some mountains were named after me. There's even a coin. Can you guess who I am?
Please, cameraman.
I spent most of my life as an Army officer, and World War I ended on my 33rd birthday. I was born on November 11, 1885. When I was 2, my sister Annie was born. I was only 4 when I had my pet horse. I was 5 when I had my own pistol. The same year I decided to be a combat commander when I grew up. And I was at my grandmother's house, my pistol accident went off, but it only hurt my finger. I had dyslexia, which made it hard for me to read or write. In 1903, I went to Virginia Military Institute. I got really good grades and made it into West Point. In 1910, I married Beatrice Eyre. In early 1911, I married Beatrice Jr. I went to the 1912 Olympics in Sweden. I got 5th in the modern pentathlon, which earned me the title, Master of the Sword. In 1915, my second daughter, Ruth Ellen, was born. In 1916, I helped capture the Mexican bandit, Pancho Villa. I made the first attack using an automobile when he ambushed his bodyguard and another bandit. During World War I was shot in the leg. My son, George Smith, was born on Christmas Eve of 1923. In 1937, I was kicked by a horse. In 1943, I was given 10 days in the Sloppy's 2nd Armed Corps in the elite fighting group. I did just that. The 7th Army took the western end of Sicily in 12 days when the Allies invaded the island. 3 weeks later, the Allies captured the island. I planned the invasion of France. We liberated Paris in 1944. I wanted to be the first Allied commander to get to Germany, but I wasn't. At the end of August, my army had over 1 million prisoners. In the Battle of the Bulge, my 3rd Army saved Bastogne from being destroyed by the Germans. In May, I beat my rival, British General Montgomery, to Germany. I was sent to Czechoslovakia to destroy the Germans there, but I never made it because the war ended. On December 9th, my limousine crashed, and I was paralyzed. Later that month, I died because of injuries. Can you guess who I am?
I'll tell you the story of my life. I was born on May 7, 1919. I was born in Las Tuldas, Argentina. Throughout my childhood, my family was very poor. My father's name was Juan Duarte. My mother's name was Juana Duarte. My older siblings were named Elisa, Blanca, Arminda, and Juan. I know a lot of Juans. And here's some shocking news. Juan, my father, had another family. They were middle class. My father later died in a car accident in 1926. I was only 5 years old when my father died. At my father's funeral, my family was shunned and couldn't go in. Later, my family moved to a city near Buenos Aires. Poetry drew me to acting. I gained courage and moved to Buenos Aires when I was 15 to become an actress. I went on to get big parts for 7 years. Then, I was discovered. In 1937, I got my contract to perform on the radio. I made my debut in a radio drama film. Another great success came in 1943. I was in a series called Biographies of Illustrious Women. I played the likes of Queen Elizabeth I and Catherine the Great. On June 4, 1943, President Raymond Castelo was ousted during a military coup. General Pedro P. Ramirez took over for president, and another Juan, took over for the head of the National Department of Labor. On January 15, 1944, a major earthquake hit San Juan, killing 7,000 people and injuring 12,000. Brown held a benefit concert to help raise money for the people who were injured in the earthquake, and I performed that day. I asked to be introduced to Juan. The 6-foot-tall colonel with jet black hair mesmerized me. From then on, we began what would become the most compelling relationship in Argentine history. Juan professed his love for me the following year. My life changed dramatically when I married him. My husband became vice president in 1945, then president in 1946. I kind of unofficially ran the Ministries of Health and Labor in my husband's government. He became a legendary name in politics. On October 9th, an army coup forced Juan to resign from his positions. 1 week later, he was exiled to Martin Garcia and Alandapacos of Buenos Aires. The people loved my husband, and with my help, I convinced them to overrule the government and let him go. So on October 17th, workers abandoned their jobs and began marching toward the Plaza de Mayo. The government had no choice but to deliver Perón to his people. As First Lady of Argentina, I wanted to have a voice. I helped the people of Argentina have better job conditions. I also helped with women's rights, including the right to vote. Slowly I caught things. It felt weak and I noticed a huge weight loss. Finally, I agreed to see a doctor and was diagnosed with uterine cancer. The cancer was far too advanced to treat. In the next election, which Juan was in, I voted for my hospital bed. He was re-elected. At 8 o'clock a.m. on Saturday, July 1952, I last went to a coma. By 8 o'clock, my condition was grave. 25 minutes later, I passed away. Sadly, I was only 33 when I died. In the months to follow, at 8:25 p.m., Argentine radio would pause to remember the Lady of Hope. Can you guess who I am?
Madeleine O'Shaughnessy.
I won so many awards doing something I love is incredible. I was born on March 17, 1972 in Selma, Alabama. At age 1, I was already talented to soccer games. I tried ballet, but after 2 lessons, I decided that I hated it. When I was little, I loved to watch soccer, but one of my favorite things was playing soccer with my brother Gary. Playing soccer helped me make friends. I was so into soccer, I started having lessons, but the first one didn't go well. I got kicked in the stomach. I was so competitive, I had a tinsel when I didn't win or when I didn't get my way. Later on, at age 15, I became the youngest player to be given a spot on the U.S. women's national team. In 1989, I entered the University of North Carolina. Meanwhile, I was playing for the national team. In 1991, I compared my team to win the first ever Women's World Cup. I graduated from UNC as the all-time leading scorer of the Atlantic Coast Conference with 103 goals, 72 assists, and 278 points. In 1995, I won the most valuable player. I was really excited. A year later, I helped my team bring home the Olympic gold medal. After that, in 1997, I received my second MVP. A few years later, I became the all-time leading scorer in women's soccer after scoring my 108th goal. In 2003, I married the University of Colorado with the Boston Red Sox. I retired from professional soccer after winning a gold medal in 2004 Olympics. I scored more goals than any other soccer player. Can you guess who I am?
Mike
straitjackets and opening locks. I was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1874. I loved going to the circus and wanted to look like a real circus performer. My father was a rabbi. My family was poor. With 4 kids to take care of, life in my family was difficult. Then my family moved to Appleton, Wisconsin, and there my dad led a small congregation. From the age of 8, I worked after school selling newspapers and shining shoes to help my family. My real name is Erich Weiss, but I later changed it to Jean Robert H., who is the most famous magician in France. I began practicing tricks, and a few years later, I mastered opening locks. In 1896, I got my first straitjacket, and I ran an ad to sell my secrets. In 1898, I was known as the Handgun King. My most memorable escape was the water torture cell and milk crate buried alive. I escaped from my straitjacket hanging by my feet. I escaped from jail cells, handcuffed bridge jumps, and even a giant paper bag. My brother Theo became my partner and then got replaced by Bess Ronner, who was my partner in the act and my life. In 1921, I connected with the idea of escapes in the dictionary. Then I died in 1926. Can you guess who I am?
Matthew Jasper.
Do you want to have hearing power and survive attacks? I already do. I was born in Northern Ireland, Canada. My first name was Gotland, but then I changed it. I live in the Apache tribe. I did not go to school. I was trained in medicine and healer. My nana went missing one day. We heard a scream. It sounded like Nana. We didn't know where she was, so I went out to look. I found her with a bear. It was her Nana, so I killed the bear and made a herbal remedy to make her better. It worked, and I did all that while I was under 18. My family died in 1858 in a surprise attack. After that, I lived on for several weeks. I was in many wars. I got captured a few times, but I always got out. Sometimes I had to make promises to get out. I got into the Council of Warriors. I was also an Apache war leader. As a war leader, I killed many people. Usually I fought the Americans the most, but I also fought different tribes. In 1885, I heard a rumor that 3,000 American soldiers were coming to capture the Apache war leaders. They captured me and I went to a fort. I lived there for about 35 years. I died on February 17, 1909 of pneumonia. It was told that I had the healing powers of Usin. Usin is kind of like the God of Apaches. Who do you think I am?
Olivia Chow.
I have appeared as a guest star on such TV shows as Moshe, Hangtime, Sister, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I was born on July 7, 1972 in Los Angeles, California. I lived with just my mom because my dad died when I was 12 and we didn't have much money. Both of my parents were 6 feet 3 inches tall. I was exceptionally tall even as a young girl, and I reached 6 feet when I was 12. At school, I got teased because of my height. I lived in several parts of the Los Angeles area. I went to Morningside High in Inglewood, California. My mom sold our family home to buy an 18-wheeler, and she switched her job. I lived with relatives during the school year and went with my mom in the 18-wheeler in the summer. When I was in the 18-wheeler, we would all sleep in the sleeping compartment, which was only 36 inches wide. When I first started playing basketball, I didn't want to fall down or I would quit, and I didn't want to break a sweat. Working with my cousin is how I got my skills. I scored 101 points in the first half of my last regular season high school home game against South Torrance. They forfeited at halftime, so I couldn't beat the record of 105 points in a high school game. As a freshman, I averaged 19.4 points and 10 rebounds per game and set a school record for most personal fouls in a season. But my career really began in college. I went to the University of Southern California. In 1994, I received the NCAA National Player of the Year and Naismith College Player of the Year awards. I made the Summer Olympics in 1996 and won a gold medal. I played for the Los Angeles Sparks and made the first dunk in the WNBA. My jersey is the top seller in the WNBA. I am now a fashion model.
I help girls and boys discover the power of sports, and I run a camp in LA that combines basketball coaching with lessons in leadership. I love working with children, and I think it's very important that kids have role models to look up to. Can you guess who I am?
David Jarvis.
The eagle has landed. These were some of my most famous words that I said to Mission Control. I was born August 5th, 1930 in Wapakoneta, Ohio, USA. I grew interested in airplanes before I was 6. As a kid, I loved building model airplanes and was very interested in the Wright brothers. I took my first flight when I was 6 in a tri-motor airplane called the Tin Goose with my father, Stephen. I was so smart, my teachers had me skip 2nd grade. I took flying lessons at age 15 through age 16 and got my pilot's license. I didn't even have my driver's license. Later, I got a scholarship from the Navy and went to Purdue University. In the middle of college, I got called out for service in the Korean War, where I flew F-9 Panthers. After the war, I became a research test pilot and flew the X-15 rocket plane. I married in January 1956. In 1962, I joined the NASA astronaut program. I was on the backup crew for Gemini 5 and then commanded Gemini 8. As part of the Apollo program, I stepped on the moon at 10:56 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on July 20, 1969. I spent less than 1 day on the moon as a spacecraft. I splashed down on Thursday, July 24, 1969 at 12:51 p.m., 825 miles southwest of Honolulu. I retired from NASA in 1971 and went on to work for the Department of Aerospace Engineering at the University of Cincinnati. I died August 25th, 2012 at age 82. Can you guess who I am?
Jack Marshall. My friend and I built our first computer in my parents' garage. I liked doing it so much that I sold my Volkswagen car to get money to start my company. I was born on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, California. I was raised by my adoptive parents in Cupertino, California. I didn't really like school. I didn't get along with other kids that much. When I was in high school, I tricked all my friends into giving me their bike lock codes and switched them. It took them a long time to get them open. In 1969, I met Steve Wozniak. Steve and I built a device that would allow you to make phone calls for free. We realized this business was illegal, so we stopped. I graduated Homestead High School in 1972. I went to Reed College in Portland, Oregon. I didn't think college was right for me, so I dropped out 6 months later. I didn't really do a lot of things. I took swimming lessons, but I wasn't really into sports. Instead, I spent time with the Hewlett-Packard Explorer Club. It was one of the first most successful electronic companies in Southern California. A couple years later, I met up with Steve again, who was working for the Hewlett-Packard, designing his own computer logic board. I suggested that we go into business together, and this is when the Apple I was invented. The Apple I had many bugs, so we came up with the Apple II, which sold more in a month than the Apple I did in a year. The Apple II was completed in 1977. In 1981, the company had a record-setting public stock offering. The company made the quickest entrance into the Fortune 500 list of America's top companies. In 1983, the company recruited PepsiCo president John Scully to be its CEO. Scully convinced Apple's board of directors to remove me from the company. I quickly started another firm called Next Corporation. In the early 1990s, I focused the company on its innovative software system called NextStep. I bought Pixar Animation Studios. Over the following decade, I built Pixar into a major animation studio, which in 1995 produced the first full-length feature film to be completely computer-animated. I'm sure you all have seen the movie Toy Story. Pixar's public stock offering made me for the first time a billionaire. I introduced the iMac in 1998. It was a neck-shaped one-piece computer that offered high-speed processing for a reasonable price. In 2001, I started reinventing Apple for the 21st century. I introduced iTunes and began selling the iPod. In 2007, I changed the company's name to Apple and introduced the touchscreen iPhone. Back in 2003, I was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer, and 1 year later, I underwent major reconstructive surgery. Throughout 2008, I lost significant weight, which made people think my cancer was back. I released a statement that I was being treated for hormonal imbalance and that I would continue my corporate duties. Less than a week later, however, I announced that I would be taking immediately Avastin. I kept my health issues and treatment very private. I came back to work, but 2 years later, I took another medical leave option, and in August, resigned as CEO but stayed on as chairman. I died on October 5th, 2011, leaving my wife, Lorraine, and 2 children. Can you guess who I am? Laura Haas.
Some people say that I have too many dresses, but I use all of them. I also donate my clothes to charity, which is very important to me. I was born on July 1st, 1961 in Sandringham, Norfolk, England. I have 2 sisters, 1 brother, and my family is very wealthy and important. One of the Queen's younger sons was my playmate when I was a child and happened to be my future husband. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and it was hard for me to understand. When I was 9 years old, I was homeschooled. When I was 12, I transferred to a school called West Health School. In school, I was known for my athletic ability, love of animals, and my kindness. I loved kids, so I babysat in my early years. When I was 16, I got a job in London, England to look after children in kindergarten. Soon after that, I became a kindergarten teacher. I became engaged in 1981 and was married in July of that year when I was 20 years old. The wedding was in London and everyone watched it on television. It was beautiful. My first son, William, was born in 1982, and my other son, Henry, or as many know him today as Harry, was born 2 years later. I do a lot of charity work, such as visiting sick children in hospitals and visiting many less fortunate countries. I also help to raise money to help those in need. Being a part of a royal family made me the most popular person to be photographed and followed. My sons and I were always having our photo taken. My husband and I started not to get along, and we eventually divorced in 1996. I tragically died in a car accident in Paris in 1997. My companion and the driver died as well. My funeral was broadcast on television and was watched by over 31 million people in 185 different countries. Flowers were placed outside my home, and everyone was sad about my death. A special tribute at my funeral was that Elton John sang one of his songs with new words just for me. Millions of people bought the song, and most of their money went to my favorite charities. Goodbye, England's Earth. Can you guess who I am?
Thomas Papalowski.
You might know me as a master puppeteer, but I did much more. I was born on September 24th, 1936. I loved to play cartoons when I was little. My favorite subject in school was art, mostly because I draw in my free time. I also loved watching movies and reading. I'm not so good at sports at all. I went to college at the University of Maryland and studied puppetry. My first job was a puppeteer on Jerry the Morning Show. I made a puppet named Kermit after my friend named Kermit Scott. I married a girl named Jane. Jane and I had 5 kids. We worked together to do puppet shows and make more Muppets, and to make a company called Muppets Inc. In 1960, the Muppets popped up on several TV specials. After all that, I created a new show called Sesame Street. Sesame Street is a 1-hour show that teaches kids numbers and letters. Sesame Street is still on air for people to see. Its characters include Bert, Ernie, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, Oscar the Grouch, and many others. In 1975, I made a deal with a man Lord Gray to create the Muppet Show. I died on May 16, 1990, but the Muppets were a huge success. Also, they're in several movies. Can you guess why?
Matthew Villanelle.
When I was only 12, I was in a learned to defend myself. I was born in San Francisco's Chinatown. It was in the year and on the hour of the dragon, a double symbol of great power. I was in my first term at 3 months old. I also had lots of energy. I was caught sleepwalking around my apartment. I was named Mosi Ting, or Never Sit Still. My next film was at 8 years. I learned a martial arts style called Wing Chun. My sensor's name was the Ape Man. I forgot to mention one other nickname, Junkan, or to shake foreign countries. At 17, I got my first major role in a film called The Orphan. Another movie I was in, Enter the Dragon. In the fight scenes, I missed my opponents by centimeters, and off stage, people snapped chicken bones to make the sound of bones cracking. So as you can see, I was in lots of movies. Also, I made a martial arts school with a new style of martial arts called Jeet Kune Do, and I made a book on it. I was married at 24. And at 18, I was in over 20 films. I got injured in 1970, but that didn't stop me. I died because of an allergic reaction to a headache medicine in 1973 at the peak of my career. Can you guess who I am?
Robin Batchelor. Once when a guard insulted me, I snapped back that he was insulting God with his insult and said after that, and so near your death. Within the hour, he fell in the milk and drowned. I was born on January 6, 1412. Most people don't remember my birthday. I mean, who does that? I was born in a village called Domino. It was being terrorized by Burgundy and soldiers. Burgundy had an alliance with England in the war. When I was older, I was proud of my skills sewing and weaving. I had 4 brothers and sisters. After he had a dream of me sneaking off with soldiers, my dad told my brothers that if I ever did that, I was too proud. When I was 13, I started hearing the voices of saints. I cried nearly their life. When I was older, a man proposed to me. I declined my parents' court. He took it to court. Guess who won? Me. Then when I was 17, I visited the governor because the saints told me a year before to take the dauphin to Rome to get crowned. The dauphin was King Charles VII. When I went to the clearance to say pass for Charles, I got rings back for the French. I was only 17 then. I used a sword that I found buried behind St. Catherine's altar. I finally persuaded Charles to go to the flames to get crowned. When it happened, I got to stand close to him when it happened, which is an honor. After that, I fought for Orleans. I predicted that I would get shot in the shoulder with an arrow, but I would live. I got shot in the shoulder with an arrow. I lived. We got our legs back. When I tried to get back Paris, we were unsuccessful. I got captured. I was held for 2 years before my trial. One bad thing was that my trial was supposed to be fair. It wasn't. They kept trying to get me to confess, but I held my ground. Finally, the pressure got to me and I confessed. They charged me with heresy for wearing men's clothes. They also charged me with witchcraft. On May 30th, 1431, I was burned in Rome, England. I was only 19 when it happened. People who saw me get burned wept after. The secretary for the King of England himself said, "We are all condemned because we have killed a saint." Charles didn't look into my death until 25 years later. We got another trial to be held, and my name was cleared. I turned 602 on January 6, 2014. My memory still lives on, I hope. Do you know who I am?
Sophia Broccoli.
In my house basement, I tried to store so many of my products that I put them in any little place they could fit. Soon I had to buy a 2-story vacant building. I was born in 1945 at Oak Lawn, Illinois. My father ran a service station and my mom was a typist. She also was an extraordinary cook. The highlight of my week was Sunday dinner. My mom cooked dinner and we spent time together. It was the best event of my childhood. When I went to college, I majored in home economics at the University of Illinois. After college, I married my high school sweetheart, Jay. We had our first child in 1972. When I was 35 and had 2 children, I wanted to start a business.
I took a lot of my husband's money to start it. I wanted to make my business big. I decided to sell cooking utensils. I named my company the Panda Chef. It was very hard to have a business and a family to take care of. I stored my products in my basement. I stocked up at the Chicago's Merchandise Month. I wanted my products to bring families together. Since I love cooking, I had fun with the business. Soon I decided to do things I call cooking shows in 1980. That is when I bring my products to your house if you are having people over and tell you about the products and hopefully sell some. If I didn't have a lot of product, I wouldn't show it to the people at my next show. I got my vacant building in 1984. The next year, in 1985, the Pampered Chef had 162 items. I was amazed at how far my company had gone. I was 57 when I retired. I sold the Pampered Chef to Warren Buffett in 2002. My company supports America's Second Harvest, which is a food bank network. Today it has so many employees who share my love of cooking. I feel like cooking brings families together just like it did with me on Sunday dinner. Can you guess who I am?
Have you ever known a man that quit school at 14 to be a broom salesman? Well, that's me, but that's not what I'm famous for. I was born April 17, 1860 in Battle Creek, Michigan. When I was young, I didn't have time to play because every day after school I worked as a broom salesman. But at 14 it changed. I quit school to work full time for my father. I really never ate poorly because we always eat the bread we made, we eat water, and the vegetables we grew. I did not like my real name, so I changed it. Back to my brooms. I had 8 successful years in central Michigan because of my good business skills. One night I was doing some experiments and I left out a bunch of cookies and it made delicious and crispy flakes. I finally found a food people would eat. I encouraged my father to eat them with milk. He thought they were great. A little while later I got married to Ella Davis. I worked as a bookkeeper for 25 years. I quit my job and started my own company at 46 with my son and grandson. After Ella died, I married Dr. Carrie Staines. My cereal started to be recognized by America, England, and even Australia. I was so excited. After a long while, my sons had a disagreement and left the business. I was blind for the last 10 years of my life, and I died at the age of 91. Can you guess who I am?
Katie Doherty.
I am so famous, I was invited to the White House and had a day named after me. I was born on May 16, 1955 in Grodno, Russia. I am the youngest of 4 sisters. I became interested in gymnastics through my older sister, Ludmilla, who was an accomplished gymnast. I was only 9 years old when I entered a sports school directed by Renal Nish, who was one of the best gymnastics coaches in the world. Little did I know that he would soon become my personal coach. I was 4 feet 11 inches and 98 pounds, which made me perfect for gymnastics. My coaches made me put extra work into different back exercises, all to improve my spine flexibility. This helped along with my regular training. I picked up a difficult and truly original style. At the time, I was studying at the Grodno Pedagogical Institute, but I still managed to practice hours in the gym. In 1969, I competed for the first time in the Soviet Championships. It was my first ever major competition. I took 5th place. After this competition, I entered several others and won gold in both. In 1972, I made the Olympic gymnastics team for Russia. When I started my floor routine to music entitled Java from a German wartime film, the crowd loved it. I won gold for that event as well as for my balance beam routine, where I fascinated the crowd with my daring backward aerial. Although a thrilling move, it did start controversy within the International Gymnastics Federation. They decided to disallow the move, which also led to the increase of padding on the balance beam. On the end of the bars, I introduced my back flip off the high bar. I completed this move successfully, but then suddenly lost balance, which lowered my score. At that moment, I knew my dreams were crushed to winning gold. I had my play burst into tears on the sideline. But I still left with an all-around gold after my comeback on the beat. I also left with the hearts of millions worldwide. Young girls everywhere started swarming into gymnastics schools to follow my example. I changed the art of gymnastics forever. Can you guess who I am? Now it's time to check your answers and see how many eminent people you guessed correctly. The host will introduce the students again as their own person. Stage masker, Aseptuia.
Everything I do is for my people.
Reese cameraman as General Pat.
Retreat is as foolish as it is cowardly.
Melissa Bolio as Ava Perot.
My biggest fear in life is to be forgotten.
Madeleine O'Shaughnessy as Mia Hamm.
Make sure you're playing soccer because you love it, not because your parents are making it.
Mike Montminy as Harry Houdini.
For the performer, she never tried to bite off red hot metal unless he has a good set of dentures.
Matthew Jasper as Geronimo.
While living, I like to live well.
Olivia Chow as Lisa Leslie.
Everyone talks about age, but it's not about age. It's about work ethic. Winning never gets old.
David Jarvis as Neil Armstrong.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Jack Marshall as Steve Jobs. Tonight is not how it feels and forgot. Laura Hobbs is Princess Diane.
Nothing brings me more happiness than trying to help the less fortunate people in society. It is a goal and an essential part of my life, a kind of destiny. Whoever is in distress can call on me. I will come running wherever they are.
Thomas Papalowski as Jim Henson. When I was a kid, I never saw a puppet show. I never played with puppets or had any interest in them. Matthew Dillon as Bruce Lee. If you're not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but if you're the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Robin Batchelor as Joan of Arc.
Children say that people are hanged for speaking the truth.
Sophia Brockney as Doris Christopher. The kitchen table is where we mark milestones, divulge dreams, make deals, and give thanks. It is also where children learn the lessons that families teach: manners, communication, and values. Kyle Brunel is William Kellogg.
Dollars have never been known to produce character, and character will never be produced by money. I'll invest my money.
Katie Doherty as Olga Corbett.
Anyway, I will go some road because I was born in gymnastics. This is my, how you say, my life and my duty.
The students submitted a project in a food edit. You can learn more about our eminent guests by visiting their tables, asking questions, and sampling their food edits. Please enjoy the rest of the evening and thank you for coming.